The desert breathes with the heat of dawn. Over dunes of gold, a caravan moves like a river of silk. Camels heavy with treasure, merchants murmuring in many tongues.
The sun rises early today. We have many miles before the next oasis.
Inshallah, the journey will be swift and the heat bearable.
Beyond them rises a city of stone and light. Palmyra, the beating heart of trade between east and west. Here Rome's reach fades into the horizon, and another power quietly gathers strength. Among its marble colonnades walks a woman whose eyes hold the calm of command. Zenobia, Queen of Palmyra. Born to nobility, fluent in the languages of empire, she was raised on stories of Alexander and Cleopatra, yet destined to write a legend of her own. Her husband, Odaenathus, had ruled as Rome's ally, defending the eastern frontier from Persian attack. But when he was struck down by assassins, the empire expected Palmyra to collapse. Instead, a new ruler rose from the ashes, his widow. They said she would be a figurehead, a caretaker until her son came of age. They were wrong. Zenobia seized power with a steady hand and a clear vision. Under her, Palmyra's armies grew stronger. Its coffers overflowed with the wealth of the Silk Road, and its ambitions reached beyond the desert sands. Rome in those years was breaking apart. Emperors rose and fell like waves against a dying shore. Plagues, invasions, civil wars. The once eternal city seemed to age overnight. From the Rhine to the Euphrates, chaos reigned. But in Palmyra, order held, and in that order, Zenobia saw opportunity. She ruled through her young son, Alexandria, allowing Rome the illusion of control. Coins still bore the emperor's face, for now. But behind those coins lay the truth. Palmyra was no longer a servant of Rome. It was a rival. When Egypt faltered, she struck. Her general Zabdas led legions of desert horsemen across the sands, taking the great city of Alexandria. Then Arabia fell, then Syria. One by one, the eastern provinces of Rome came under her banner. From the Nile to the Euphrates, from the Red Sea to Anatolia, her empire shone like a mirage made real. She called herself Queen of Kings, and her son Augustus. Her coins showed her beside the emperor's likeness. Not beneath it, beside it. The message was unmistakable. Palmyra now stood as an equal to Rome. And yet she ruled not through vanity, but intellect. Her court became a center of learning, where philosophers debated under painted ceilings and poets recited verses in Greek, Latin, and Aramaic. She welcomed scholars from Egypt, Persia, and even Rome itself. The queen's mind was as sharp as her army's swords. She studied Plato, strategized with generals, and spoke to ambassadors with the grace of a seasoned diplomat. Her people adored her. They saw in her not only beauty, but purpose. A leader who carried both the crown and the burden of destiny. Under her, Palmyra reached heights unseen. Trade flourished, cities prospered, and the desert became a bridge between worlds. But word of her rise reached Rome, and Rome does not share power. A new emperor sat upon the throne, Aurelian, a soldier by birth, forged in campaigns against barbarian hordes. He was not a man to tolerate rebellion. Where others saw a fractured empire, he saw a mission, to unite it again by any means. And in the east, one name burned like a challenge, Zenobia. He called her actions treason. She called them destiny. And so, the empire prepared for war. Aurelian gathered his legions, veterans hardened by years of blood and discipline. They marched eastward, crossing mountains, rivers, deserts, toward the city that had defied them. Every step was measured, every strike precise. Aurelian's mind was cold iron. Zenobia's was fire wrapped in silk. The armies met near Antioch at a place called Imma. There the queen's general, Zabdas, commanded her elite cataphracts, armored horsemen, shields and spears glittering beneath the sun. When the horns sounded, they charged like thunder across the plain, smashing into the Roman line. For a moment, victory seemed certain, but Aurelian had planned for this. He ordered a feigned retreat. His soldiers fell back, drawing the Palmyrene cavalry farther and farther from safety. Under the scorching sun, their heavy armor became a curse. Their horses tired, their ranks thinned. Then Aurelian struck. The Roman countercharge shattered the exhausted cataphracts. Dust and screams filled the air. When it cleared, the queen's army was broken. Imma belonged to Rome. Yet Zenobia did not despair. She retreated to Emesa, gathering what remained of her strength. The people still believed. Their queen had never failed them before. Behind the walls, prayers rose with the smoke of torches. But the legions were relentless. Again, battle came. Again, Palmyra's cavalry thundered forth. And again, Rome's discipline endured. The sand turned crimson. The proud desert riders fell beneath the weight of empire. When Emesa fell, the road to Palmyra lay open. Zenobia withdrew to her capital. She had defied emperors and conquered nations, but now she faced the siege of her life. Palmyra, the jewel of the desert, became a fortress of desperation. Granaries emptied, fountains dried, the songs of merchants were replaced by the hammering of shields. Outside, Aurelian's army encircled the city like a ring of iron. Inside, the queen stood unbowed. She encouraged her people, spoke of hope, of aid from the Persians beyond the Euphrates. But hope is fragile under hunger. As the days turned to weeks, that hope began to fade. Then one night she made a choice. Under the cover of darkness, Zenobia fled. She mounted a camel and rode eastward, a small escort at her side, racing toward the river that might mean freedom. Behind her, the city slept, unaware their queen was leaving to seek salvation or death. But the desert has eyes. Roman scouts caught sight of her boat mid-river at dawn. She was seized before reaching Persian lands. The dream of Palmyra ended there, in the ripples of the Euphrates. When news reached the city, despair was instant. The gates opened. Palmyra surrendered. The empire she had built in 3 blazing years collapsed overnight. Aurelian entered not as a triumphant liberator, but as a judge. Temples were looted, statues toppled, the queen's banners torn down. Yet when Zenobia was brought before him, bound yet proud, she met his gaze without fear. Aurelian saw not a rebel, but an equal, a ruler of steel and spirit. He questioned her, demanded to know why she had dared defy Rome. She answered simply, "Because it was mine to rule." Even Aurelian, conqueror of nations, admired her courage. He spared her life, a rare act of mercy in an age ruled by vengeance. Bound in golden chains, she was taken to Rome to walk in his triumphal parade. On that day, the streets overflowed with cheering crowds. Chariots gleamed, soldiers marched, and at the heart of it all walked Zenobia, her head held high. Some say she lowered her gaze in shame. Others say she smiled, calm, unbroken, knowing that though Rome had won the war, her name would outlive her conqueror. After the parade, she was granted a villa near Tabor. There she lived in quiet dignity, surrounded by her children, her books, her memories. She studied, wrote, and hosted philosophers until her final days. The desert queen had traded her crown for peace, but not for regret. Yet Palmyra could not forget. A year later, its people rose once more, a final spark of rebellion. They killed the Roman garrison and proclaimed a new emperor. But Aurelian returned, furious. This time he showed no mercy. The city was burned, its treasures scattered, its temples left in ruins. The silence that followed was the silence of extinction. Centuries passed, empires rose and fell, but Zenobia's legend endured. To some, she was the Eastern Cleopatra, beautiful, brilliant, doomed. To others, she was a symbol of freedom, the voice of the desert that refused to bow. Artists painted her standing against Rome's legions. Poets sang of her courage. Historians debated her motives. Was she a rebel blinded by pride, or a visionary who dared to build something greater than herself? Perhaps she was both, for ambition and faith often share the same fire. In her story lies a truth older than empire, that greatness is born not only from victory, but from defiance. Rome could conquer her cities, chain her hands, erase her banners, but it could not silence the idea she represented, that even in a world ruled by men, one woman could rise, command armies, shape destiny, and look an emperor in the eye without fear. The ruins of Palmyra still stand beneath the Syrian sun, broken columns casting long shadows over the desert. Once, they framed markets and palaces. Now they whisper of a queen who dreamed beyond the limits of her age. Wind sweeps through the colonnades, carrying echoes of a forgotten empire. Somewhere in that silence, her voice still lingers. I was a queen, and I defied Rome. Empires rise, empires fall, but legend, they never truly die.